welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time on my channel, thank you for stopping back by. I do really hope that you're gonna sit around, chill, click the subscribe button below and be part of the fam. If you are returning, thank you for returning to this channel. As you may have seen in the title below, today's video we're going to be talking about how I found out about Tiamo's diagnosis. Why is my voice changing all of a sudden? Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so how I found out about Tiamo's diagnosis. Tiamo was born in 2018, and so he was born in 38 weeks. So that's 2 weeks prior to the your standard 40-week pregnancy, and his birth weight was like 2.3. Tiamo was a small baby, but then again, like mother like son, as you can see. So yeah, so then he was classified as a premature baby. I'm not sure if it was because he was born 38 weeks or it's because of his weight, but either or, he was classified as a premature baby. So when I was in labor, somewhere between because when you go to labor, most they put that what do they call this machine where it actually regulates the baby's heartbeat to check that the heart is beating at a normal rate. So between that moment when that was happening and being taken to the delivery room, at the short space of time, somehow Tiamo went into distress. So when I gave birth, so the mucus blocked his airways, being his nose and his mouth, so he couldn't breathe. So then he had to be rushed to be resuscitated. At that time, to be honest, I didn't even know that I was having a boy. I just found out that because it was meant to be a surprise. So he had to be resuscitated, and it started because I actually didn't know what was even happening at that time, because when he was born, the doctors and the nurses didn't even say anything. They just took him and rushed and went. So it was only after one of the other nurses came back, did she come back and say to me, no, your child is alive. So that was what happened. So when I got to see him, he was obviously on your oxygen machine, but it was not your mask oxygen. It was still on the nasal one, the one that just goes through the nose. So yeah, then he was on oxygen on that evening. The following morning, when I went to go check up on him in nursery, I wanted to find that Tiamo had gone into ICU, and I was not even aware. So he went to ICU. He was on the oxygen machine. He just had machines, and yeah, it was just a very hectic and traumatic moment, because that's definitely something I was not expecting when I went to go see him that morning. But anyway, so he was trying to breathe on his own. He needed the assistance of the oxygen machine, and every time they tried to get him off, obviously he would struggle and they had to put him back on. I remember there was a time even the doctor was saying to me, I don't see how your child will live without the oxygen tank. He'll probably have to live with it for life, and yeah, and that's what we went through. At some point again, he had to get a blood transfusion for platelets because his body wasn't producing any platelets. So it was honestly a roller coaster when it came to his birth. Like, really, the beginning of motherhood for me was just like hit the ground running, and it was like haywire. It was chaotic. I was stressed because I didn't know what was going on, and people are not properly explaining. So I depended mostly on research of the phone to find out exactly what the issue was. But eventually he made it home. So he was in ICU for like 2 weeks, and but he progressed, and he became better, and eventually we got discharged from the hospital and we had to make it home. Now, in developing after we got home, Tiamo was on, how do I put it? Was developing normally, as per normal, like a normal baby or the normal development of a child. He was good. He was doing fine. He was doing his blabbling, his babas, and all of that stuff. But at a certain point, he stopped his progressing. His development just became stagnant and just stopped. So he struggled a lot, for instance, with rolling over. You place a child on the tummy, having to have them roll over to their back, or vice versa. So he struggled a lot with that. He couldn't roll over. With crawling, he delayed with crawling. You could put a toy that he loved right in front of him at a particular distance to try and entice him to crawl, but it was difficult, and you could see that he was frustrated, and he could look at this toy and he would try and get to it, but it was just not happening. Like, his brain was just not processing all of that properly enough for his body to react or to respond. So he would get frustrated a lot, but yeah, that's what it was. So he delayed with his crawling, he delayed with his walking even. I remember when he did start walking, he was at his school at creche, and the one time we came to pick him up with my mom, and there he was, just walking, and his teacher was like, "Yo, mom, he's been walking around all day." And I remember when he was practicing, because he was in his cot bed and he was moving from one end to the other. And that evening, my mom and I luckily picked it up. Like, we saw it when he was doing that, and we were so impressed, but we didn't want to show that we saw it, because with Tiamo, the minute you show that you are happy, you're excited, he doesn't want to do it anymore, because now he knows that you've seen him. So we obviously rejoiced underneath, and we were like, oh, at least he's practicing, or he's trying, only to learn that the following day he's been walking all day in class at school. And even after we picked him up, he was walking like everything. In fact, from walking, he just started running. And I remember my mom was a bit concerned, because she was like, this boy is not gonna walk, he's just gonna up and run, turns out that he did. But he started walking, he started running, and I was like, sure, at least that's another milestone down. But he still had speech delay, so even right now he's not at the level that he should be against his peers. So he still struggles with his speech, he still struggles to make full sentences, he struggles to process things according to people or children his age. So we tried a lot to get him to engage in activities that will actively try and get him to do things, or to get him to the milestones he needs to develop. So during that time, so my mom is an occupational therapist by profession, qualified OT, and obviously for her, the minute she saw Tiamo's Fawalo in hospital and she picked up at the Apco school, she already knew, what the story was. And I remember when she was telling me, she was like, she was scared to even tell me, because she was worried about how I would react. In fact, I remember we had a conversation where she said at some point it seemed like I was in denial. I don't remember being in denial, but that's what she said. So it is what it is. So now, she obviously hadn't seen Tiamo while he was in hospital, because he was in ICU, so they were not allowed to see him. So she was basing her, I'd say, sort of like diagnosis of the APGAR score from his chart, because it was quite low. And in fact, I remember even the doctor was like, your baby is actually a miracle baby, because with that kind of at go school, he was supposed to be a CP child. So CP means cerebral palsy. So physically, he was supposed to be a physically disabled child, and he wasn't. He came out as a normal, healthy baby boy. So with my mom being knowledgeable in the OT or medical side, obviously she started preparing me in advance of what was to come, because she could see, and even with his developing and him being stagnant and him now being late in terms of crawling, walking, all of those other things, she had already diagnosed, or she already knew what it was, but obviously she hadn't told me. So I googled and researched a lot. Like, Google was so much my friend, guys, like you will not believe, because I wanted to know what was the problem and how I could fix it. So at first we thought it was developmental delay, because that's what he showed. He delayed in his speech, he delayed in his fine motor, gross motor. He delayed in all of those areas. So initially we thought it was development delay. Then after doing a lot of research, autism started coming up in my research, and I started reading more and more about it, and I saw some of the symptoms that were being told or that were said Tshiamo had, and then I started, obviously we started sharing that with my mom, started to do more research about it, and we ended up feeling like, no, Tshiamo may be autistic. And even though he may have mild symptoms, because he was not doing your severe things like your head banging or self-injury, and these things that he would do that were still on par, if I should put it that way, with his age, but there's in the bigger areas of things he lacked. So yeah, that's what it was. So we figured that it may be autism. So eventually then I ended up taking him to a pediatric neurologist, and she made an assessment. I think it was like 3 hours, if I remember correctly, 3 or 4 hours actually, if I remember correctly. Guys, that lady is good. She is good with children. She made us feel so comfortable. It was at ease. Even Tshiamo himself didn't feel scared or uncomfortable. So she made it really welcoming and made it so much comfortable for us while we were there and while she was busy assessing him. So after she had done then assessing him, then she did confirm that he was autistic and that he also was ADHD, obviously with speech delay, receptive and expressive. So then we got our final diagnosis, and I must say, to be honest, it was a relief in a sense that what we had suspected was true, and also in a sense that I then knew how to help him, or what measures or steps that I needed to take, and at the other side it was a bit sad, to be honest, because I was like, you know what, I would not have obviously wished that for him or wanted for. I don't think any parent ever wants that for a child, but I chose to focus more on the positives. I think me having Tshiamo as an autistic child, there's a reason behind it. I feel like also I was prepared somehow in my life. I really feel like Heavenly Father prepared me to be a parent to an autistic child. Not often do you have the support system, especially the one that I have. To have a mother who is knowledgeable, who is so supportive from day one, I think played such a huge role in me being able to take on this, motherly role, and try to do my best at it. She really was there in every step of the way in getting Tshiamo to be where he is today. She's very active. my mom is very active when it comes to Tiamo's development, and she enjoy really having to see him progress and get to where he should be getting to. So yeah, pretty much that was how we got to learn that Tiamo was autistic and that he was ADHD, which would make sense because Tiamo is hyperactive. He has a lot of energy, like you'll not believe, and almost like he just does not run out, which would make sense because that's why he always wants to drink a lot of liquid, water, juice, coke, like anything that is liquid he wants to have, because his energy, his body, it's almost like he's always in overdrive. So yeah, and that's how it has been ever since Tiamo was born. Then life changed, obviously, and I started having to live my life or accommodate my life, structure my life in such a way that obviously it's accommodative to him. And it's been a joyous ride ever since. It was not at all easy, especially if this is your first time having to experience something that you don't know, something that you're not familiar with, something that no one seems to know where it comes from or how a child gets it. But it's not easy, but it's been joyful in a sense that there is things in an autistic child that I honestly believe are special, in a sense that you don't find it in a neurotypical child. There's things that Tiamo does for me, and I would sit there, I'm like, yeah, that's definitely the autistic side of it. And it's cute little things that that just would melt my heart. But that I would end up looking at him and be like, you know what, autistic or not, you still that one of a million kind of child. So anyway, in moving forward, I don't want to blab too much. So Tiamo had then started with his speech. He started with his OT, and he's been going to therapy ever since. He is doing well. Actually, he's doing more well in OT because it's more of your physical area, and he loves things that require him to be physical. He loves things that require him to jump, require him to run. Those are that's his kind of thing. Speech, he tries to avoid it because it requires him to actively be involved. So there are times where he does what he needs to do, or he does what he's asked, and there are just times when he just point blank will not participate because he's just not interested. And I don't know whose stubbornness the child took. Maybe it's mine, who knows. But anyway, he tries to do his best, and that's the one thing that I love about it. But yeah, I mean, that's just Tiamo and his autism, and we've lived with it ever since as a family. We try and do what we can. As I said, this is also a new area for us. We're also still learning, we're also still trying to figure out. At the end of the day, one child with autism is not the same as another child. They're different. Autistic children are all different. They may have similar symptoms, similar behaviors, but they are still individuals separately on their own. So, but we've enjoyed getting to know or being on this autistic journey with him, and as he learns and as he navigates life, we enjoy having to learn and navigate life with him. And it's been interesting having to see the world in his eyes, to try and show how he feels, try and communicate his needs. It's honestly being a work in progress, but he has honestly come far. He is quite optimistic. He tries his best, and that's all we could ever ask from him, to just keep trying, and him being encouraged and self-motivated to what is asked of him. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, you're welcome to let me know in the comment section. As I've said before, I do like to hear back from you guys, and I appreciate all the responses that I do receive. And yes, it's been good. I'm glad that we've started on this autism journey with you guys. There's still a lot to learn, and I'm obviously excited of what it is to come for Tiam and come for us as a whole family. And it'll be great to have you guys join us as we navigate this journey with him. So I hope that you stick around, you subscribe, as we all want you guys to do, to subscribe. Hope you subscribe, like, and share this video. And up until then, I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.